The Gorosei are failing at their jobs, and Vegapunk's message is still being broadcasted around the world. Thanks to this, everyone is finally learning about a certain pirate from the Void Century named Joyboy. Vegapunk describes him as a man who had the same stretching abilities as the god of Elbaf, sun god Nika. While we already knew that Joyboy was a stretchy guy, the rest of the One Piece world didn't, which is partially what I want to talk about in today's video. How will the world react to Luffy after this story if they are able to piece together the fact that Luffy has the same power as Joyboy? Which shouldn't be too hard, because let's be real, how many other stretching pirates do people know about besides Luffy? And once the world makes this simple connection, how many more allies could this bring to Luffy's side? Mihawk already said that creating allies out of those around him was Luffy's true power, and it's even one of the strongest powers to have out there in the Blue Seas. This power is already formidable, but once you add the Joyboy legend to Luffy as well, it'll take this skill to a whole new level. That is the first topic we'll talk about, and then in the latter half of this video, we'll also be discussing new physical power-ups Luffy could get too. So immediately, the first characters I thought of when Vegapunk dropped the Joyboy information on us were Luffy's past enemies. Most notably, Kaido and Doflamingo, because those are two characters who have ties to the Joyboy mythos. Kaido with King's Dream, and Doflamingo by simply being a celestial dragon who wants to bring down other celestial dragons. Heads up though, but I will be talking about Kaido and Big Mom under the assumption that they are still alive, and nothing's been confirmed yet as far as their status goes, but I personally believe that they are alive and well. If there were ever going to be characters that could survive a trip to a volcano, it would be Kaido and Big Mom in my opinion. Plus, there are many interviews in SBSs where Oda has talked about how he doesn't enjoy killing off too many characters, and how Luffy doesn't even kill his opponents either. He simply beats them and shatters their dreams, which in Oda's point of view is apparently far worse than even death. So, when King first met Kaido, he thought that he was this era's Joyboy, and followed him because he thought that Kaido could change the world. But eventually, he realized that Kaido wasn't him, and ended up staying with the Miniways simply because he owed Kaido his life. The idea of Joyboy's existence and the world that Joyboy would create dwelled within Kaido's mind ever since. And we know this because after he first beat Luffy atop Onigashima, he disappointingly looked down at Luffy's body and said, "It seems like you couldn't be Joyboy either." To Kaido, Joyboy was more than just someone that could change the world, but someone who could also beat him, which is what he says verbatim as he is sent crashing down from Onigashima due to Luffy's Bajrang gun. That right there, plus Vegapunk's message, should solidify to him that Luffy is the man who King was searching for this entire time. Now that Kaido knows this, how will a future interaction between Luffy and Kaido go? Would King and Kaido become a part of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet? Probably not. But, based on how Oda has portrayed many former villains, I think there is a case to be made when it comes to the idea that Kaido and King could be supportive of them at the very least. We've seen this effect before when it comes to other characters like Hachi, Buggy, Mr. 3 and 2, Smoker, Crocodile, Bellamy, Caesar, and even the Vinsmokes. The Straw Hats just have that effect on their opponents. And before anybody thinks I'm crazy, I'm not saying that Kaido and King will become good guys. I just simply think that they won't immediately antagonize the Straw Hats like they did in the past. If anything, they'd most likely be curious about the world that Luffy, i.e. Joyboy, would end up creating in the future. So I could see them coming back and assisting in some capacity. And hey, if Kaido doesn't, I know King will for sure, since he is a true believer of Joyboy and the last of the Lunarians. Just like Kuma, King believed that one day Sun God Nika will change the world as we know it. So it would be strange if King or Kaido came back just to get in the way of Sun God Nika's goal, which of course is Luffy's will at the end of the day. Luffy has been and always will be his own person, it's just that his goals happen to fall in line with what Joyboy was potentially trying to achieve a long time ago. And also, according to Sandman over on Twitter, the kanji for Kaido could even spell out Joyboy, which could back up the whole notion that Kaido is a failed version of Joyboy, and thus would probably be curious about what the real Joyboy would be all about. So while we don't know where Kaido currently is, we do know that King was captured by Aramaki, and was most likely sent to Impel Down, the home of our next potential ally, Doflamingo. Just like Kaido, I don't think he's going to be buddy-buddy with us, but I also don't think that he would want to challenge us anymore either, considering that Dofi was so scared of the Azure Dragon back in Dressrosa that the idea of the Straw Hats destroying the Smile Factory put the fear of God in him because Kaido would punish him for it. So there's no chance that he would want to rerun the fight against Luffy, who has since beaten that same Kaido he was afraid of. While Rob Lucci was an opponent who wanted a rematch with Luffy, Doflamingo does not have that leopard in him, and that has been shown a few times already, like when he avoided fighting Kuzan at Punk Hazard or Fujitora at Dressrosa. Doflamingo is not the type of character to start a fight he knows he can't win. So hypothetically, if Doflamingo breaks out of Impel Down, how would he interact with Luffy? So this is an interesting one because Dofi actually hates celestial dragons and wanted to wreak havoc around the world simply so that they would be torn down from their perch. So the prospect of teaming up with Luffy, i.e. Joyboy, doesn't sound like that bad of a deal since Joyboy is seemingly the main antagonist of the world government. So just like Kaido, I could see him being supportive of the Straw Hats without ever being a full-blown ally. One problem with Doflamingo becoming friendly with Luffy would be that in the Law and Corazon flashback, Korra says that the rampage that the D-Clan will bring into the world is a different kind of destruction that Dofi has in mind, which could throw a wrench in this idea. But then again, the world Kaido wanted to create differed from the world Joyboy would make, so this could tie back to Oda's message about Luffy shattering his opponent's dreams. Maybe, now that Doflamingo has lost to Luffy, he'll be more receptive to a new kind of world. As cursed as this may sound, there could even be a Law and Doflamingo team up one day against the world government, considering the fact that Law is a part of the D-Clan. I mean, crazier team-ups have been formed before in One Piece due to a greater threat, like Marineford, where we saw Crocodile and Luffy fight side by side, and Sanji even working with his abusive family to fight Big Mom. Let's be real for a minute, how many people actually thought that the main reason why Ace would make it off of that execution platform alive would be because of Crocodile killing the executioners? And then later on in Marineford, Crocodile even stands up to Akainu just so that Luffy and Jinbei can make it away safely. The reasoning Crocodile gave at the time was that he didn't want to see the Marines have their way at the end of the day. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Doflamingo and many former adversaries come together and push aside their differences when facing off against the world government. So since we brought up Crocodile though, I do believe that Cross Guild would be a very fitting home for the Doflamingo family if they were to break out of Impel Down, since Crocodile would definitely extend the invitation. Oda teased a Crocodile and Doflamingo team up at Marineford, and even paired them up in multiple color spreads too. Doflamingo was even a part of the Chapter 0 Roger execution alongside the other key members of Cross Guild. Funny enough, I wanted to include Big Mom on this list, but she's more of a wild card and the most likely character out of the aforementioned that would hold a grudge, since her final words were that she'd get revenge on Kid and Law. While she didn't mention Luffy on that grudge list, she did initially come to Wano just for him. The optimistic side of me would like to imagine that she'd drop the grudge once she realizes that Luffy has allied with the Giants of Elbaf, since that is a part of her ultimate dream of bringing all the races together. The only reason Big Mom wanted Lola dead was because she severed her one and only connection to Elbaf. But once she learns that Luffy is their sun god, this could make her sing a friendlier tune in the future. But, of course, that is me speaking optimistically. Personally, I do wish that Big Mom comes back into the story on our side, simply because I do believe that her dream is actually based on good intentions. She just has a hunger problem, which causes her to rampage and start unnecessary conflicts with countries. Funny enough though, Luffy did say, during his fight with Kaido, that he wants to create a world where all of his friends can eat as much as they like. So if Big Mom potentially became friends with Luffy, this could be a solution to her hunger pangs. Also, if the Straw Hats ever run down and defeat the Blackbeard Pirates, that could be seen as a great benefit to Big Mom, since they currently have Pudding captive as well. I think this power of friendship is very befitting of Luffy's character, and could be a nice ironic plot point when it comes to overthrowing the world government, since 900 years ago, it took 20 kingdoms to take down the Ancient Kingdom, but now, present day, we will have Luffy gathering all of his forces and former adversaries to take down the world government. Odd allies and friends from all around the world will one way or another be rallying behind this era's Joyboy, whether Luffy likes it or not. I mean, hell, the Giants showed up here and immediately started calling Luffy the Sun God. I feel like we're gonna get a lot of random races coming out of the woodworks in celebration of the news that the Sun God has finally arrived. So, that's enough about Luffy's power of friendship. It's now time to talk about the possible physical power-ups he could get in the future. While Luffy is completely dominating the battlefield right now against the Gorosei with the Sun God powers, I bet we will still grow stronger throughout the series to compete with future opponents, like Blackbeard, Emu, or maybe even some of the Holy Knights. In the latest chapter, we were introduced to the Mother Flame, and with it, we got a really interesting reaction from Saturn when he entered the room. His reaction was reminiscent of a demon seeing a holy cross. While this could be a nothing detail, and he was simply jump scared by this room, we do still have the mystery of the Gorosei's regeneration powers and how to actually harm them. So what if the Mother Flame is the key to this mystery though? At first, I thought that maybe throwing them in the water would be able to finish them off, but right before entering that room, we actually saw the Straw Hats and Lilith trying to fend off Saturn. And in that panel, Lilith seemingly fires off her bubble gun towards him, and there was no reaction to this or even a mention of its effects, which is interesting since we know that the bubble gun holds properties of the sea, which should instantly weaken Devil Fruit users, or at the very least garner a reaction from them. The only thing since his arrival that seems to unsettle Saint Saturn has been the Mother Flame. If the Mother Flame is indeed their weakness, I do think that Luffy will one day be able to harness that power, or at least create his own version of it thanks to his Sun God abilities. Interestingly, for someone dubbed the Sun God, Luffy hasn't used any fire-based attacks in his Gear 5th form yet. There hasn't been a Gear 5 version of Red Rock Throne yet, or even Red Hawk, so I am curious to see where Oda could go with this. Another way to spin this fire narrative is to simply look at Emu. They are the representation of water, Mother Nature, the ocean. Even spelled backwards, Emu is just Umi, which is water in Japanese. I know this isn't exactly how it works, but the opposite of water is fire. So I wouldn't be super shocked if fire is a key way to beat Emu and the Gorosei. And also, when I just think back to the Eternal Flame that Lilith was talking about at the beginning of the saga, I do feel like that would be a perfect way as to how to beat someone who just endlessly regenerates, by setting them ablaze with the fire that will never extinguish. It would kind of be like Sasuke's Amaterasu in Naruto, where the fire just keeps on burning until there's nothing left. That would be a great way to beat the Gorosei, right? They could regenerate, and then they would instantly die again. Side of the fire though, another way Luffy could get stronger would be with the power of music. This is a small detail, but Luffy's drums of liberation are an actual audible sound that comes from his heart. While I'm sure it sounds weird, I do think there is a chance that Luffy could change his heartbeat rhythm or even genre of music to make himself gain more power. And if that's not possible, then maybe there is something that can be done by a band of musicians. And if there was a place to learn about the music of the Sun God, it would be over on Elbaf. Of course, the obvious reason and connection for this is because that is Nika's original home, but there's also the connection Oda gave us all the way back in chapter 14's endnotes, where he said that one of his inspirations for writing a story about pirates was due to Viking stories, and more specifically, the story of Vicky the Viking. In his depiction of the show, he made sure to draw the merrymen playing music. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Elbaf, home of the Vikings, will also be home to a new array of music. The last power-up to talk about has to do with Luffy's transformations. At first, we thought Luffy's gear transformations were just the powers of the Gomu Gomu no Mi. But now, with the reveal of the Sun God Nika fruit, it brings on a whole new perspective upon his different forms. Instead of them all being simply utilizations of rubber, we can now view them as hybrid form attacks, where he imparts aspects of Sun God Nika onto his body. Which begs the question, what would a full Zoan transformation of Sun God Nika look like? And is that even possible for a Hito Hito model fruit? An example of a full mythical human transformation would be Onimaru, who ate the mythical Onyudo devil fruit, which transforms them into a yokai monk, and that form completely changes their appearance to the point where you wouldn't even be able to tell that they were once a fox. And then on the opposite end, there's Chopper, who in all of his forms still resembles a reindeer to some extent. Does Chopper have a full Zoan human form where he doesn't resemble a reindeer? We don't know, because for the non-human Zoan models, they all grant their users a full animal form, where they look nothing like their human counterpart, except for their clothes and colors, of course, like Kaido's dragon, or King's pterodon, Sasuke's triceratops, and even Lucci's full leopard form. But for human models, it's really up in the air. Could Luffy perhaps turn into the original Sun God? I don't know if he could, but that is what I would consider another potential power-up. Maybe, with this hypothetical full Zoan transformation comes the sword and spear depicted, and who's silhouette of Nika. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on Luffy and his newfound powers. Let me know what you think Luffy could get as an upgrade in the future, and also let me know which former villain you would love to see come back into the story as an ally. I know I talked about Kaido, Big Mom, King, and Doflamingo, but personally, I really would love to see if Arlong hop back into the mix, because Arlong actually isn't that bad of a guy. Okay, he's bad. Yeah, no. Arlong is pretty bad. But Arlong is just looking out for his fellow fishmen. Once he sees that Luffy is not only just hanging out with his brother, but also bringing fishmen the freedom they've been looking for, maybe Arlong could have some sort of redemption arc. I don't know how Nami would feel about that, so maybe not. But Arlong, you know, he's gonna come back at some point, right? Like, Oda didn't forget about this guy. We don't know where he's at. He wasn't at Impel Down. Apparently, he's at some random marine prison. But yeah, maybe he'll hop back in at some point. Maybe when Luffy goes to Fishman Island again to destroy it. Maybe that's what Arlong's gonna jump back. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this video down below. I'll catch you next time. My name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Peace.